massive multiplayer online role-playing games, also known as MMOs. Basically, I know I said in my last video that I was going to make a video about console versus PC. That'll probably be more of a joint effort between me and Mike and Megan. We might have a joint video on that and a little bit of a debate, again with my super biased opinion, so hopefully I represented the PC crowd well in that. But discussing this video, there's just tons of games out there. I've probably played most of them, Ultima Online being the exception. I was too young to have a credit card when that game came out, and I never got into that because my dad didn't trust me with his credit card, I guess. Basically, I'm going to give you guys a heads up. I do have a notepad open over here, so I'm going to be referring back to that just because there's going to be so much to cover with this. I basically started with Star Wars Galaxies, played EverQuest 1 and 2, World of Warcraft of course, Age of Conan, Rift, City of Heroes, City of Villains, dabbled in EVE a little bit. That was a bit of a scary game just because the learning curve is a bit of a brick wall, but do have some very fond memories in that. Dungeons and Dragons Online. It goes on and on, honestly. So like I said, I started with Star Wars Galaxies, and what I really enjoyed about that game is the game was based around the community. And this was my first exposure to MMOs. So basically, what I mean it was based around the community is if you died in combat or you needed healing, you had to go to a hospital where the doctors were other players that would heal you. When your mind was damaged, I believe it was your mind, you would have to go to a cantina and watch dancers. So sit in a seat and watch the dancers. The thing is, the dancers were other players, and that's what they specialized in. So it was a very social experience. The planets were huge. You could explore everything on the planets. So it was really nice. What was really cool as well was there were player-run cities. So basically people would build their own cities. There would be like elected town officials. There'd be a town shop where you'd have a weapon vendor where all a guy did was log in and make weapons. And it was really cool. Granted, it made the major cities made in the game complete ghost towns because everybody built their own house and lived in these little towns out in the country. But it was really After that, I got into EverQuest 1, and that was sort of near the end of well, EverQuest 1's still going on, but it was sort of when it was on its decline because World of Warcraft was around the corner. But I wanted to get into a big MMO fantasy game, and EverQuest 1 was definitely the one to get into. So I played that with my friend Brian, and basically had a Necromancer in that, got to about level 60, and just had a really good time in that. That, again, was a big community game. You could not solo in that game. You would have to go to a farming spot, and you would see a party of players there, and you just say, hey guys, do you have room for a damaging class? And they would send you an invite. Basically, it was a chat room where you were killing enemies. So that leads me to Warcraft after basically playing Star Wars Galaxies. So Warcraft, when you compare vanilla Warcraft to it is now, I'm going to have huge rose-colored glasses here. Basically, Warcraft now, I find that there's dailies, and what I found with Mists of Pandaria, it sort of became Farmville and just doing dailies. That started in Wrath of the Lich King, of course, and basically in vanilla, at endgame when you hit level 60, you had to find a way to keep busy. So whether you were running instances or anything like that, when you weren't doing that, you had to find ways to keep busy. And one of my favorite things was basically people just finding creative ways to troll each other. People found ways to basically drag Doomlord Kazzak all the way to Stormwind, and he would just cause havoc that a GM would have to reset basically the server. Here's a bit of a video of it that's going on in the background right now, and basically he would just keep spamming all these shadow bolts, and I believe it was a curse that would regenerate him every time he killed somebody while he's killing level 10s and 15s like it's nothing. What I also miss about Vanilla WoW is basically 10-man instances. I know that sounds crazy, like there was no dungeon finder, there was no meeting stone or anything like that. People just had to sit in Stormwind spamming in trade chat, hey, need a tank, need 2 tanks, need a couple healers, basically need a party. And yeah, with that, you'd go into these dungeons and they would take 2 to 5 hours. I remember Blackrock Depths or lower BRD and upper BRD is 10-man party, and you'd be in there for hours, and it was a fun time though. You would just enjoy it. And another thing about Vanilla WoW is they basically had events. The opening gates of AQ40 and AQ20 it was amazing. Like, I remember having to farm just a bunch of cloth, bring it into vendors at Ironforge, and just multiple things that everybody on the entire server was contributing. Horde and Alliance were working together. And I played on a PvP server, and then when the gates were opening, everybody met there, and there's no conflict. No one was fighting with one another. Everybody just wanted to watch it. The servers were crashing, going up and down, just because couldn't handle the load. But the gates opened, these monsters came out, and everybody just started fighting these monsters. And then the trolling and griefing started. So I played a healer. I was healing the raid, and basically rogues were just going around ganking all the healers, and everybody was just falling. It just became pandemonium, but probably one of my favorite memories about Warcraft. I remember also the gnomish death race with one of my guilds, Sting. It was just a really good time. Basically, we had people make level 1 gnomes, and they had to run from Ironforge to Stormwind. And that was just hilarious. And no using the tram. I know everybody's like, oh, why not just use the tram? You can't do that. Just from the gates to the gates. It was a good time. And there's a video on YouTube if you're looking for that. Basically, when TBC came out, the Burning Crusade, it sort of got rid of the world events that I've noticed, but it focused on hardcore raiding. So basically, there were the world first, and that was a big deal, killing Illidan first, and all that. And then Wrath of the Lich King came out, and that's when the game sort of shifted to a more social atmosphere, a more relaxed gamer. Basically, there was the looking for dungeon queue, there were basically nerfed down instances, crowd control became non-existent. You didn't have to sheep a target, you didn't have to stun a target, you didn't need rogues or mages, you could just go in there and just AoE and steamroll everything. And then Cataclysm came out, and they tried to go back to the difficulty by bringing in difficult raids and instances, but they sort of dumbed down the community. I hate to put it that way, but they sort of made it, everybody was so used to just going in there and just spamming all their AoE attacks that they didn't realize you couldn't do that anymore. So they nerfed it down, and then that just continued to happen. And the thing that I got bored of, I believe it was Blackwing Descent. I think that's what it was called in Cataclysm. I remember going in there excited, first month of Cataclysm being out, I got to the level cap. And then we killed the first 2 bosses on either side. There were the golems, and then there was the giant snake. Sorry, their names escape me, it's been a while. And then we went down the elevator, and then you're greeted with a giant donut. Now the problem I had with this, Ice Crown Citadel was a giant donut. So it was basically the same layout as the previous raid in Wrath of the Lich King, and I just got a little bit bored with that. So I ended up leaving that. So I played a lot of other games from there. A lot of MMOs seem to be moving to the free-to-play model. There's the Runes of Magic, Guild Wars 2 adopted this, and recently Rift did as well. There's also action MMOs which are coming out, which are really exciting. Sort of Terra did this, Guild Wars 2 certainly did, and Rift to a lesser extent. Where basically you see an attack coming, or a boss has a tell where it taps its front foot, or it rears back or something, and that means jump the hell away, because it's sort of changed. Where Warcraft is very much percentage and math based, basically like you have 40% dodge, less chance you're going to get hit, more armor, more damage reduction, that type of thing. Whereas the action MMOs are more reliant on sort of like Devil May Cry mechanics or God of War, where you have to adapt, you have to be paying attention, you have to move, you can't just rely on your gear carrying you through it. Now, Warcraft, of course, does have that as well, where you have to stand in certain spots and this and that, but it's a lot more intuitive with the action MMOs, and it's an interesting direction that they're taking MMOs. EQ Next is the next big game, and it looks like that has a lot of those mechanics as well, which is interesting. Basically, right now, what I've settled on, I'm just going to sum up this video. Lately, I've been playing a lot of Rift. It's gone free to play. I don't have the time to spend till 2 or 3 in the morning now that I start work at 6 most weekdays, so basically I can't stay up late, so I can't really justify paying $15 a month for a game that I'm maybe going to play 2 to 3 hours a week. And Rift is just serving the purpose. When I log in, it's a dynamic world. Rifts open up in the sky. The map is constantly changing because of that. Armies are invading because of that. It's got a nice casual environment as well with an adventuring party finder, so you can start grouping instantly, which is a nice change, because I remember when Warcraft Vanilla came out and EQ1 and Star Wars Galaxies, that was all group based, and then basically MMOs started to become more of a single party or single player experience. the elite quests were taken away from WoW, so you didn't have to group up them anymore. You could get to level cap playing entirely by yourself. Well, that was unheard of in EverQuest or vanilla WoW. So it's nice that Rift has started trying to push people together, because finding a group that easily, getting into dungeons that easily, doing quests together is a lot more enjoyable experience. I mean, they're called massive multiplayer games, so that's my thoughts. I think all MMOs that I mentioned, fantastic games, but I still think World of Warcraft is a great game. There's a reason why it has 8 million players still. I believe that's its last numbers. And yeah, I think it'll be around for a while. There will never be a definite WoW killer, and I certainly haven't been looking for that. I've just been looking for something that matches more my playstyle, and this seems to be happy. So that's my video on MMOs, and hope you guys take care. Thanks, bye.